you have so many doctors. I mean, think about it. You have a heart doctor, you have a back doctor, you have an ENT, you have all these specialized doctors, and they're so great in their field. But what they forget is that your body is still one system.
I think the biggest surprising thing for me is everyone says, oh, I struggle with motivation. I just can't get motivated to get healthy or to get out of bed and go to the gym in the morning. And I think a lot of people don't really struggle with a motivation as much as they think they do. They struggle with clarity.
Try to fix the current system or reimagine something new? Will healthcare ever serve consumers just like me and you? The power's in our hands, but every side's gotta come together. We want the newer generations to get something better. Until we flip the script and talk about what gets prevented. Until we see the changes permanent as if we meant it. Until healthcare is finally consumer-centered. We've got a lot to rap about.
Welcome back to the leading podcast about consumer-centered health. This is more than a show. This is a mission, y'all. As healthcare leaders, we're here to share with you the latest consumer-centered ways that healthcare is being designed, marketed, and delivered. And as consumers yourselves, we want you to understand how these options work and why they might be right for you and your loved ones. Here's what's going down today. First up, we have the Flava of the week about the launch of Claude for healthcare. As the counterpart to ChatGPT's announcement just days prior, how's Anthropic's tool positioning itself to help health consumers? And what should we be paying attention to as the GenAI healthcare wars are at a fever pitch? I'll talk about that. Then the founders of Forevity Health, Taylor, Wright, and Josh Hall, discuss their mission to make preventive health more obtainable, the evolution of health coaching and longevity, and what they're learning about consumer health behaviors that might surprise you. I'm Jared Johnson. Let's get it. Flava of the week. The GenAI healthcare wars are at a fever pitch to start the new year, ringing in a new era of the ways consumers can interact with their health data. Last week, I covered OpenAI's announcement of ChatGPT Health. Just days later, Anthropic has introduced Claude for healthcare. Per Fierce Healthcare's Heather Landy, Claude for healthcare features HIPAA-ready infrastructure for enterprise customers, models trained specifically for healthcare and life science tasks, and native integrations to commonly used medical and scientific databases. And per NBC News' Jared Perlow, both tools will allow users to share information from health records and fitness apps, including Apple's Health app, to personalize health-related conversations. At the same time, the expansion comes amid heightened scrutiny over whether AI systems can safely interpret medical information and avoid offering harmful guidance. Claude's new health records functions are available now in beta for Pro and Max users in the US. Meanwhile, ChatGPT subscribers must join a waitlist to access their health tool. What's the consumer lens? My initial reaction was excitement because competition with tech usually means quick improvements in the products as they go to war. In this case, it's helpful to remember that healthcare is full of friction, a lot of which springs from the frustration of not being able to easily access, understand, and ultimately use our medical information as part of our own constellation of care. Now, that's nothing new. I wrote about it 10 years ago in my first book, Connect the Docs, which was based on interviews with leaders from the original Empowered Patients movement. By now, it's basically been written off as an acceptable loss, a limitation that just comes with the system. But now we have new tools, and different personas are going to use and trust them differently. For instance, I'm going to use these tools very differently than my aging parents, and my teenage children will use them differently than I do. So I don't think we need to get caught up in the early hype necessarily. In fact, I'd go as far as to say I believe people want us to pit the two tools against each other. And maybe there's value to that. I mean, we really do want to understand how they work and how safe they are. Still, I'll come back to a comment from the NBC News article by Eric Cotterer-Abrams, head of life sciences at Anthropic. He said, when navigating through health systems and health situations, you often have this feeling that you're sort of alone and that you're tying together all this data from all these sources, stuff about your health and your medical records, and you're on the phone all the time. I'm really excited about getting to the world where Claude can just take care of all of that, close quote. So hey, as far as I'm concerned, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or 10 other tools that will show up in 2026, I'm looking forward to fewer people feeling the way that Eric just described as we start to truly see the benefit of these game-changing technologies on an individual basis. Let's explore what Claude and ChatGPT are truly capable of doing in healthcare as we stand at the dawn of a new era for consumers. That's another way that we'll build the healthcare of tomorrow, and that's the Flava of the week. Hey, I'm here with my friend Carol Flagg from Healthcare Now Radio. Carol, you and I have an exciting new partnership that we want to tell people about.
Yep, we'll actually be launching an exclusive new opportunity called Limited Series. And these series will air nationally on Healthcare Now Radio, which, by the way, was named once again as one of the top 10 healthcare shows again in 2025, as well as here on the Healthcare Now Wrap. These series are going to cover some of the biggest topics in 2026, starting with rural health and including the CMS health tech ecosystem, GLP-1s, wearables, and more. So we're really excited about these series because there's a lot to talk about with these topics, which means they are ideal opportunities to create thought leaders in these spaces.
Yeah, Carol, that's what I'm the most excited about, is to really generate more informed, trusted information on these topics. And for those who are interested, spots are extremely limited for Q2 through Q4 of 2026. To get started, just reach out to either of us on LinkedIn, and we look forward to hearing from you. Hey y'all, I'm here with Israel Crush, founder of Hyro. Israel, what's an easy to understand example of how an AI agent can help consumers in their health journeys?
A simple section would be the fact that instead of enrolling into Medicaid and proving that you're eligible once a year, you need to do it once every 6 months. Patients don't know that. So we said, you know what, we're going to get ahead of that and we're going to educate patients about some of those changes and try to get them re-enrolled or redetermine their enrollment into those programs to make sure that one, they're covered, and two, that the health system gets paid or reimbursed for those patients. So I think that's like a clear win-win where you create an AI agent that is proactively helping both patients and health systems with issues that they face and make, again, the journey a little less complicated.
Thanks, Israel. Visit hyro.ai for more information. That's HYRO.ai, and tell them you heard about it on Healthcare Wrap. All right, everyone, let's get into the flow. I am pleased to be joined by Taylor Wright and Josh Hall from Forevity Health. Really excited to get into this space. As our listeners, longtime listeners know, we've been diving a lot into this space the last probably 18 months, and there are just really cool things happening. I just like to leave it at that. I'm going to welcome the two of you on. Taylor and Josh, welcome to the Healthcare Wrap.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
Yeah, thanks, Jared.
Taylor, let's start with you. Let's help our listeners get to know you a little bit better in terms of maybe like a 2-minute version of who you are and what you do. And then Josh, if you want to do the same.
Yeah, great. So I'm Taylor. Josh and I are actually siblings, and we started Forevity Health together. I started in this industry straight out of college. Didn't really know where it would take me because at the time, saying a health coach was not really a term that most people talked about 12 years ago. But I thought, I want to help people live healthier lives, so I just started going with it. I started in the corporate wellness field all around Indianapolis, driving to corporations, worked with the airport, Salesforce, companies like that, and coached executives in there. From there, I went to Noom, and I was a health coach for Noom for 4 years and decided to leave that to have my little girl. When she turned 1, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom for a little bit. Then the space just started changing and it drew me back in and I couldn't say no. And Josh and I decided to start Forevity together. And so that's where we are today.
I'm Taylor's younger brother, so I got out of college somewhat recently. And my background is I was a pole vaulter at Indiana University when I was in college. So I've always really been into performance and tracking my performance. And I'm a very data-driven person. Where that drove me to after college was a career in investment banking. Numbers is my thing, finance is my thing. And I ended up advising healthcare companies and usually founder-owned businesses when they were selling, and just saw that a lot of the materials that were being distributed out in the market were saying, oh, chronic disease is growing exponentially. And there's a need in the market for it. And I was kind of left thinking a lot of the times, why aren't we trying to solve this at the root of the problem? Why are we just trying to remedy an issue that is existing and getting progressively worse? And so that's where Taylor and I kind of came together. I knew that she was a health coach. I went to her for a lot of health advice. I was good at performance, but nutrition and just really honing in on a lot of things. Taylor was my expert guide. And we came together and came up with an idea, left the investment banking industry, and we wanted to start Forevity together. So that's how I got here with her.
Okay, so let's dive into that in terms of what is Forevity Health and kind of what problem you're trying to solve in healthcare today.
We wanted to touch a wider range of issues that a lot of people are not able to get, unfortunately, today in healthcare. So you go to a doctor and you're saying, I just want to get a better understanding of our health. They'll say, okay, well, what does that look like for you? The issue is a lot of people don't know what that looks like for them. They go to doctors for that help. And that's not really their expertise as much as to, hey, I'm sick. Why are you sick? Let me fix that. So we kind of dive into, let's fully understand your body. We do that by doing a full blood test. We do genetic testing. We do gut testing. We do allergy testing. We just really want to understand what your body is telling us. And when we get all of that information, we're then able to fully understand what makes you. And my genetics is completely different from Josh's genetics, even though we're siblings, which is wild to kind of see how our bodies work. So something that a doctor would recommend for me that they could easily recommend for Josh is not going to work the same based on genetics. And so that's why we want to make sure that we are fully understanding all of our clients, how their bodies are working, so that we can do a more personalized, unique, high-touched plan that works best for them based on the goals they want to hit. Some people want to lose weight. Great. We can focus on that. Some people just want to live longer in life. Some people want to have the energy they had when they were 30 years old. Okay, well, let's get a full understanding of what your body's currently doing. And we do truly believe, and we are seeing that we can achieve those results by getting the bigger picture and what their body's telling us.
Yeah, so true. So this journey, I will say what you just described about how the system's reactive and the most common person that a consumer is going to try to go see to help solve a health or wellness issue that you would think would be like a primary care physician or specialist. And you're right. That's not what they're trained. They're not trained in prevention for the most part. And they're not trained in lifestyle and wellness for the most part. And we've had guests on explain that and confirm that in terms of like what's taught in medical school. So that is different. So not to say a medical professional is not doing their job. They're doing their job. They're doing what they're trained to do. And yet there's such a gap between that and what somebody might be trying to get out of an encounter, a visit, a patient visit. And that is frustrating at any level. I mean, especially when that happens multiple times in someone's health journey. And so what it's helped me do is kind of broaden my own vision of like, not just, hey, things are going to get solved by the doctor. And almost like I try not to even put all the responsibility on them anymore. I'm like, they really are doing what they're trained to do. So unfortunately, that does put a lot of the responsibility back on me as a health consumer. So that is a different paradigm. And it does lead us to better solutions, I think, ultimately. So, and I think that's where you're going with this. So I guess compared to what was in the market, like what gap did you see specifically in the market that led you to say, like, there's a better way to do this?
Our story is kind of unique on what really got us wanting to dive into Forevity. And it kind of started with my daughter, actually. She was a year and a half at the time. She's about to turn 4. And we went to wake her up one morning, totally normal morning, no issues, perfectly healthy kid. And all of a sudden, my husband screamed, call 911. And I ran upstairs and she was having a really intense seizure. After the seizure, she just went completely blue. She was not conscious. We couldn't tell if she was breathing. We did what any normal parent would do. And we got her in the car and we met her in the ambulance. And thankfully, by the time we got to the ambulance, she came to it. We got her to Riley. And they did everything that a doctor is supposed to do in that scenario. They were fantastic. They did a CT scan. They ran blood work on her. We ended up meeting with a neurologist at Riley within that week who did EEGs, did every single thing they were supposed to do in that moment for her. And what they came back and said to us was, she's perfectly healthy. Every kid is allowed one seizure with no question. And I'm like, that's interesting to me. With my field in health and wellness, I'm taught when our body has a reaction that's trying to tell us something's going on inside. But before this moment, my expertise was just nutrition and exercise. I hadn't really dove into anything else. So I kind of just went with the doctors and prayed that was it. They said, don't treat her like she's sick. Everything's fine. She shouldn't have another one. A year and a half later, she was with my mother-in-law and she had another one. This time, thankfully, it wasn't as bad. They took her to the hospital and they wanted to do all the same tests again. And I looked at my husband and I was like, something in my gut is just telling me no. I'm not putting her through this. She was almost 3 at the time. I'm like, it's miserable to put her through all these tests. And then Riley had called us and they wanted me to put her on medicine for seizures. And I was like, I don't want to. I don't feel like she's having issues with seizures because hers were different because it wasn't caused by a fever like normally it is in kids. So I said, I'm just going to take her home as long as you can tell me she's safe and she's healthy, and I'm going to figure it out from here. And so we did just that. And I started doing tons and tons of research, meeting with endless functional medicine doctors to kind of understand what was going on with her body, what a seizure was, what happens in your brain when seizures are happening. And hers was a little bit different because both times that she had her seizures, she was taking a natural supplement oil. It's actually a company that I have used prior to having my daughter, and it's a very well-known, fantastic company still. And I was like, I wonder if her body's having a reaction to something that I'm giving her. So that's when I learned about genetic testing. So I was like, okay, if I do genetic testing on my daughter by giving some DNA, I wonder if her genetics can tell me that her body reacts differently to something that most bodies would react to. So we did genetic testing on my 3-year-old then. And sure enough, what came back was what was in the oil caused her to have seizure-like episodes. And it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, I finally figured out what was causing her seizures. And millions of kids are probably taking the same medicine as she was taking, but her body with her genetics reacted differently and caused her to have seizures. So that kind of opened us up into the testing of genetics. Like, okay, what are people missing? What supplements are people taking? What foods are they taking? What type of diets are they taking that their body isn't reacting and they don't know why, but their genetics can tell us why. So it kind of got us to start researching genetics. Then with supplements, I actually, 4 days before I ran my first mini marathon with my husband, I was rushed to the emergency room with what they thought was appendicitis. They were like, I wish we didn't even have to do a CT scan. We know this is appendicitis. We need to get you in to get it taken out. Well, we did a CT scan and my appendix was totally fine. I ended up being stage 4 endometriosis. And it was some of the worst pain I've experienced in my life, and I've had my daughter at this point. And so they gave me 3 options, the best of what they know to do: hysterectomy, which we still wanted more kids; birth control, which is not something I was open to; and something to put me into early menopause at the age of 28. None of those were going to work for me. So I was like, you know what? Can you tell me what endometriosis is and what it's caused? And they couldn't. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do my own research again. So I dove into the body, hormones. I started doing blood work, but extensive blood work that doctors weren't able to do for me because insurance companies wouldn't allow it, and understood exactly what was causing my endometriosis, where my hormones was, and how they moved throughout the 4 stages. And from there, I was able to understand a little bit more what supplements did and how I could use the supplements to rebalance my hormones. And actually, to this day, I have no symptoms whatsoever. It completely helps my endometriosis. I actually went in and my doctor was mind blown. She couldn't even believe it. I was like in the doctor every single month, couldn't even stand up to running and working out, 0 pain whatsoever, having kids and no issues. And all because of supplements. So that kind of gave us the idea, okay, what are they missing in this field? What if I could take a supplement to get my body back to where it needed to be and use my genetic testing to allow me, and a full blood panel to allow me to get to where I needed to be? So that kind of what started allowing us to bridge the gap within the health field, I would say. What allowed us to then take another step in bridging that gap is, I would say, personalized coaching. A lot of companies out there are doing all these tests. You can go get a full blood panel. You can get your genetic test. You can get a gut test. But what's missing is allowing someone to sit down and going over these results with you. We want to make sure that our clients fully understand what's going on in their body. Our goal at the end of the day is to help them feel the best they've ever felt in their life. And you're not able to do that with just getting your results. You're able to do that by having someone sit down with you, go over all of your results, and then create that plan to get you to where you want to be. And that's where we kind of feel like we're starting to bridge the gap in this field.
Hey y'all, I'm here with Sina Arham, founder of Friday's Health. Sina, what do you think is broken in the traditional approach to metabolic health, and what are you doing to flip the script?
Let's be honest, the moment in metabolic health is being driven by the GLP-1 receptor agonist class of medications, right? We finally have something that is addressing metabolic health, obesity, and type 2 diabetes in an elegant fashion, right? It's efficacious, it's manageable for patients. And so I think we're having our moment in metabolic health in that the old guard of tackling metabolic health and obesity has a lot of stigma attached to it, a lot of shame and blame and guilt.
Thanks, Sina. Visit joinfridays.com for more information and tell them you heard about it from the Healthcare Wrap. Well, first off, let me say I'm glad to hear that you and your daughter both sound like you're in a better place than the beginnings of those journeys. So grateful for that. And thank you for sharing, because this is the exact reason why not only that we have this podcast, but the whole reason we need to keep having these conversations, because everyone at that point in their journey is likely to think, I feel like I'm the only one going through this. And even just the connection of hearing other people and the journeys that they've been on gets us to a better place and gets us to feel like, I don't know, like that there's more hope that we can solve the things that are challenging us every day. Is there anything that has been surprising as you've gone along so far?
I think absolutely. I think the biggest surprising thing for me is everyone says, oh, I struggle with motivation. I just can't get motivated to get healthy or to get out of bed and go to the gym in the morning. And I think a lot of people don't really struggle with a motivation as much as they think they do. They struggle with clarity. There's so much noise out there in this industry, in the longevity industry. You see wellness influencers saying XYZ, take this supplement, eat this food, do this exercise. It's not going to work for every single person. I think what's surprising is once people have that clarity, once they do all of the tests that we provide, they see their own data and they have an actionable plan brought to them by a real human coach, someone like Taylor, who's really great at communicating this information, and they have that clarity, they're much more willing to follow through and the results come significantly faster. So people are seeing big changes in 3 months after years of trying to get healthier, lose weight, get stronger, whatever it is, and it not working. They have that clarity after getting all of the data and seeing their own personal health. And in 3 months, they're making drastic changes. So I think that's the biggest surprise.
To build off what Josh was saying as well, is when we're able to do a bigger picture and get all the results from them, I don't want to say quick fix, because this is never a quick fix. However, we are able to get them the results they're wanting to get quicker than they thought they could get. And that's because we know what's exactly going on in their body. So, for example, we have a client who has struggled with high blood pressure and all these issues, and their doctor's trying to get them on statins and all these medicines. And that may be the answer for someone. And they're like, I don't have time to eat healthy. I'm traveling, or I don't like these foods. I can't get my levels where I want them to get with your program. And we're proving, thankfully, them wrong. Within 3 months, we got them down, and they didn't change drastically their lifestyle. I wasn't making them only eat vegetables. They were still going out with their friends. They were still going out to dinner. They were still enjoying some wine. They were still living their life like they should live, but just doing a little bit of some tweaks here and there and actually understanding their genetics and giving them the supplements they need. And what people, I think, don't realize is supplements is something that should be used and in our tool belt a lot more, because it's not going to fix it per se, but it will give our body that extra help to bring it back to where it needs to be. It's almost like a building block for the foods and the exercise to get it to what it needs to do within your body. So I think a lot of people are pleasantly surprised when they are able to get the testing done. It's a lot easier than they thought it would be, than what they are seeing other people do as well.
Now, remind me in terms of how the model works. Is this direct to consumer? Do you work through employers? Do you work through health plans? Or how are you typically reaching a new member?
Yeah, it's direct to consumer primarily. We do have a relationship with a small company, and we're rolling out more relationships with small businesses to get in there. But yeah, direct to consumer, we don't work with health plans. All of our services and testing are HSA eligible. We work with TrueMed for that, but primarily just word of mouth.
I honestly think our biggest challenge is having people fully trust that nutrition, exercise, and supplementation can actually get their body to where they want it to be. I think for so long, we've been in this area where doctors are end all be all, and they have a place in their system 100%. And their job is incredibly important, but they're not the answers. They don't know the answers to everything, like we have stated before. And that's not on them. They weren't taught that, but yet they were pushed into that field to have that knowledge. You have so many doctors. I mean, think about it. You have a heart doctor, you have a back doctor, you have an ENT, you have all these specialized doctors, and they're so great in their field. But what they forget is that your body is still one system, and we still have to treat it as one system. And so in order to do that, we need to have communication between all of our doctors of exactly what's going on. And that's really hard to do today. 90% of, I would say more than 90%, Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we are able to use just food, exercise, and supplementation to get them exactly where they need to be. Some may be a little bit longer than 3 months, but we do still see within 3 months, because we do retest your blood work at first every 3 months to make sure everything's trending in the right direction, that even if it's not exactly where we want it to be, it is trending down. And that is what we want it to do. And so getting people, when we say that, hey, this is your blood work, and they see something's elevated, or they see that something is not right where they want it to be, their instinct is, I need to go to my doctor. When in reality, we're like, hey, we can handle this. Trust us. Give us 3 months. Trust the supplementation. Change a little bit of your lifestyle, and I can promise you we'll get you headed in the right direction. And once we get people past that 3-month mark and they're retested and they see their numbers, they're sold.
People are focused on the way Dr. Peter Attia puts it in his book, Outlive, is people are focused on medicine 2.0, which is not preventative care. It's your vaccines. It's going to the doctor when you're sick. Medicine 3.0 is preventative care. And people have literally told us, well, why would I do all of the testing that you're providing? And why would I spend that money? I'm not sick. I feel fine. And to get people to take that next step when they feel fine or they think they feel fine is the hardest thing to push forward. But I think there's a big movement in this space. People are starting to understand that preventing cardiovascular disease, preventing neurodegenerative diseases, it doesn't start when you're 60. It starts in your 40s, your 30s, even your 20s. Building those habits earlier on. And a lot of people are starting to realize that. So that's where we're getting a big push.
It's true. We're able to plug this into that broader trend that's happening. And it's more than a trend. It's a movement. This movement towards prevention and understanding it. And I'll just echo everything y'all both said. It's the easiest way to say that. How important this is and how useful it is to get there. And I've loved this conversation. Just one more question for both of you. Maybe Josh will start with you, and then Taylor, you can wrap us up. I'd love to hear from both of you. What gives you hope personally for the future of healthcare in our country?
Yeah, I think there's a big emphasis on preventative care. I mean, going off of that last question or last answer, is people are starting to wake up and realize what they're truly capable of and what their bodies are truly capable of, especially the younger generation, but even talking about Gen X and baby boomers, they're starting to realize that, oh, if I never stop moving, if I don't retire, and I understand what my body individually needs, things are starting to work out a lot better, right? We eventually reduce the total cost of healthcare in the United States because people are healthier. When a generation wakes up and starts taking these steps, it helps not just themselves live a better life, but it allows the entire system to operate more efficiently. And I think seeing these generations start to take those steps, a lot of doctors, physicians, understanding the importance of nutrition, fitness, and really diving in there and being open to learning about that is going to be a huge boost, not just for individual people, but for an entire healthcare system in the United States. So I have a lot of hope for the next 10, 20, 30 years and what we're going to achieve as a population.
I think mine goes a little bit towards me being a mom. I think for me, it's seeing the movement to want to change what our kids are eating and what they are doing on a daily basis. I think for my husband and I, we try to put emphasis on our daughter, what we eat, why we eat the way we eat, what it does for our body. And I've always said that's where it starts. It's kind of like when they say put your kid in ski school at 3 years old, they're going to learn easier than when they're 20. Same with these habits. If you're teaching your kids the importance of eating healthy and what's in our food, that's going to make a bigger impact overall for everybody. And you're starting to see that with changes that they're making in food dyes are changing and what the doctors are teaching you and telling you about kids. I know when I take my daughter to the pediatrician now versus 2 years ago, it's 100% different of what they're talking about, and asking the foods that she's eating and recommending different foods for her. That some of the conversations weren't really happening when I first had my daughter. And so I think with it focusing on a lot of the younger generation and kids and putting emphasis on educating them on that is going to make a really big impact, because when we start these habits young, that's when it starts making a normal lifestyle for us.
Taylor, Josh, I want to thank you for your time today and just opening up our minds to what's possible, what's here available to us now along this journey. So thank you both for everything you're doing to make healthcare more consumer friendly and consumer first. And I look forward to hearing more great things from you both.
Yeah, thank you for having us today.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. Great talking to you.